process that we used. And I said, yeah, we've completely uncoupled the camera and the lighting from the acting. And he said, why the fuck would you want to do that? And the answer is, because I can not worry about all that stuff. I don't have to worry. If I was doing Titanic, I wouldn't have to worry about 1,000 extras in the background of Kate and Leo. I don't have to worry about the forest, the sun going down, some big fire effect or smoke or whatever it is. We don't have to set 50 smudge pots and then reset them. Whatever it is, just imagine anything that you would need in a scene for background. 50 cars all going back to one. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. We just focus on what we're doing. Now, you could say, yeah, but you don't have the 50 cars there to inform the actors of, though they're on a street in New York. You think an actor, especially actors so accomplished from stage as the actors that I'm working with, can't imagine 50 cars? They can fucking imagine they're on a planet with floating mountains. They can imagine anything, And really, I think, and I'm speaking for you guys, and feel free to jump in, it's the other actor's eyes that you need, right?
I mean, really what it gave us an opportunity to do was, a lot of these scenes are very, a lot happens in them, and there's a lot at stake. And so really, like an early theater rehearsal, we were trying to figure out, everything about the play. You're trying to sort of, every time you start to rehearse a scene, you're really going at it to sort of take it apart and put it back together and really, really experience it. So that's what we were doing instead of worrying about the lights and everything. We were really exploring these scenes, seeing really what would Jake and Neytiri, what would the marriage be experiencing now in this circumstance? And what would the children be feeling and thinking when they had to listen to their parents fight through that tent? So it was all like, let's find it. It gave you the opportunity and the luxury to have that time to find it, because even though it's written, you still have to find it emotionally.
Also, there's not only are the actors individually working on all of what Sig's talking about, but there's the collective imagination is at work as well, and that's really, really, really important. You get into some of the most fundamental acting stuff. You get into Stella Adler territory big time there, because you really need. I remember one time we were trekking through a swamp, and at some point Jim said, there's a lot of bugs in the swamp. There's a lot, don't you people know that? And it's like, I didn't know there were a lot of bugs in the swamp. So the next time we went through it, every one of us,
Everybody.
ow, 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 like that. It was like, okay, there aren't that many bugs in the swamp. So, but as an exercise in kind of collective imagination, as well as individual need, what does each actor need? Is their deal, and what are we taking from what the environment is giving us, which we need to agree on that environment, what it is.
Well, that's why we went to Hawaii too, so we could do that kind of 2 or 3 day sense memory experiment, be in the forest. I mean, you walk through a forest, you walk on a path, whether it's in Hawaii or wherever, you don't think a lot about how do I place my feet? What do I do with my hands? What does it feel like when the leaves brush past me? How does that influence how I move? How do I assess before the fact what I know I can just push out of the way without, or where do I have to actually do something? Anything that would come back and influence the performance later, and I'm talking about just a simple physical performance, we had to start to think about that. And so we went on this really kind of deep dive sense memory experiment. We did it above water in the rainforest in Kauai, and we also did it offshore, and we did some diving exercises offshore. We did some scuba diving on the reef. Everybody got trained on scuba, got trained in breath hold diving. You got to go out into the real world. You can't come back into this environment where so much is going to be created with CG without a deep grounding in the reality of what you're doing and how you're moving and all that. And I think that the downstream process, which is working with the effects people, is all about observation. So I would encourage them, I'd tell them, on the weekend, just go out and just look at things. Look at light through a leaf. Look at things. Look at how water drips off a leaf? What happens when it hits the ground? What happens when rain hits leaves? How do they move? Because you've got to do it all. And you've got, sure, you can have physics-based simulations to do it. So, there's that sort of highly logical, highly precise side of my mind that's doing that, attempting to recreate the beauty and the wonder and the reality of the natural world. And the other side of it, trying to, work with you guys so that you could take in that reality, that observation, and then bring it back into that relatively austere volume environment and remember it. And the bugs are a good example. And sometimes it takes somebody saying, hey, are there bugs? Or me, oh, hey guys, remember the frickin' mosquitoes when it got dusk? And then it turns into Keystone Cops while everybody starts swatting bugs.
One of the great things we did when we were in Kauai, though, Jim talked about the rainforest and touched on the water. We went on perhaps the most Pandoran-like experience that one can have on Earth. We went on a night dive where we went to the bottom 30 feet down, sat down there in the dark, and out of the darkness came giant manta rays. Talk about Pandora.
And they came so close you could touch them.
And that's right, they came and would swim over Sigourney. Cliff Curtis, we had trouble getting to come up to the surface. He was so transfixed. But I thought about that moment.